We're live and nobody's here. That is super exciting. Hello, hello. Waiting for Josh to join. There he is. Should be coming up now, Josh.
Oh, there we go. I got it.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Can you, good. Can you hear me good?
Yeah,
All
everything's
right.
good. No
Perfect.
problems. As long as you
My-
keep your microphone out of your like shirt and neck,
Yeah,
should be
I
good.
saw that from some previous episodes, so I made sure I went with these headphones just in case.
Yeah, no, they're working good so far.
Perfect.
So how's it going, man? How was your day today?
That was good. Got a little work done this morning. I'm lucky to have a little indoor driving range here in my garage. I ended up camping out here at my parents' with my girlfriend, so been here for the last 4 weeks now. So we got a good little setup, a little home gym and indoor driving range there. So keeping busy there, and then I just got my butt kicked by my girlfriend in Crazy Eights. So not a hot start to the night.
No? Nice. So where are you guys holed up for this deal?
So we're in Bridgewater right now.
Oh, nice. South
Yeah.
Shore?
Yeah. So I'm moving in. I bought a house, so I'm moving in April 30th. So I'm just kind of waiting for that day to get here and then make the haul back to Antigonish and settle in there for a bit.
Cool.
So yeah.
Okay, so there's a few people on watching us right now. We'll start off more like, oh, there you go. We'll start off with just a little bit of your background, like where are you from? What was your sort of path to where you are right now? And yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up here in Bridgewater. Kind of my roots are here. Um, Played a bunch of sports growing up, kind of the typical multi-sport athlete, I guess you could say. When I got to grade 11, I kind of made the choice that I wanted to pursue volleyball full time. My mom was a pretty competitive volleyball player, and it was just one of those things where you kind of had to pick at some point. And that was kind of the sport I picked. So ended up going to the University of New Brunswick. Was fortunate enough there actually to win in our first year, which was awesome. Stayed there for 2 years, and then I ended up transferring to Acadia University in my third year. Now they didn't have a volleyball program there, so it was kind of an interesting move. But a bunch of my buddies played on the junior hockey team there, and
Nice.
it was actually an expansion team. So I ended up joining them and playing hockey again. And I hadn't been on skates for probably like 4 years at that point. So it was a little bit of an adjustment getting back into it, but I ended up playing hockey there for a year, and then ended up finding out about the internship program with Elliot there at Acadia, and that was kind of where it all started, I guess you could say. So did that for 3 years, and then ended up graduating and getting hired full time at Acadia right out of there. So there's a guy, his name's James Young. I don't know if you know James or not, but
Not sure.
he's doing his PhD in New Zealand right now, working in professional rugby. So he's kind of stayed under the radar, but super smart guy, awesome guy. Anyways, he ended up leaving to do his PhD in New Zealand, and I kind of filled his shoes, I guess you could say. So that was when we were just kind of starting the program at Acadia. I was one of 6 interns at that time, and now frig, I think they have like 50. So it's
Crazy.
massive. But so I was there for 3 years, worked there for 3 years, and then the job popped up at X, and I've been there for 2 years now. So kind of been a little bit all over the AUS map, I guess you could say.
Yeah, really cool. All
Yeah.
over the U.S. for sure. No, that's
Yeah.
really neat. It's really cool to see the program that Elliot has set up at Acadia. I mean, he's churning out really high quality interns like yourself,
Mhm.
and we've worked with Eric Richard in the past, and there's a bunch of other people who, you know, too many to name, and it's really neat to see. Like prior to seeing what Elliot's been doing, the only other program that I've really seen of that quality was out of McMaster when Steve
Mhm.
Woodstone was there. So I thought it was really cool to that Elliot's got that going so close to home. So it's really great.
Yeah, it was actually funny. Me and Elliot were on a chat with Steve last week, I guess it was, and a lot of what me and Elliot did at Acadia was based off Steve's model.
Hmm.
So I mean, success leaves clues, right? So he's super. That was my first time actually meeting. I guess you could say meeting him face to face was on Zoom chat, but
Virtually.
first time really talking to him face to face, and he's a pretty smart dude. So he's got some really good stuff going on there.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay, so let's go into the lightning round or the rapid fire round.
All
So
right,
I
here we
saw you
go.
take a sip of something. So first of all, what are you drinking?
You're gonna laugh, and I don't know if this is frowned upon right now, but I got the Corona.
Oh yeah.
So I'm kind of raiding my stepfather's beer fridge right now. So I'm not
Yeah,
much
well,
of
you don't
not much of like a specialty beer guy. I don't really know my stuff, so I tried to stay in my comfort zone here.
stay in the comfort zone, yeah, and you don't
Yeah.
want to, take too many trips to the NSLC or anything like that, right?
Well, exactly. I went there to refill because I felt bad the other day because I was drinking all his beer, so I went and refilled, and it's scary, man. Not scary, but like just weird, just walking in there. Everyone's like so scared to get near you. So
Yeah, I'm like the designated shopper for our house, so I do most of the trips to the grocery store
yeah,
and all that stuff. And it's just a weird time, hey? Like you
it is,
go and
man.
there's the shields set up everywhere and the lines on the floor and the arrows in the grocery store, and you're
Yeah,
constantly trying to figure out if you're going the right way or the wrong way.
I know. I keep hearing all these like grocery store stories, like people like going against the grain, where they have like all these arrows in the floor and people aren't, and then people are yelling at them, and like there's some people that just don't understand like the arrows in the floor, so it's pretty funny
Mhm.
to hear some of the stuff going on.
Nice. Okay, question two. What are you or maybe you and your girlfriend binge watching right now on Netflix or another streaming service?
Oh, so I finished Ozarks last week. Amazing. If you haven't watched Ozarks, you got to watch it. It's unreal.
Yeah, I'm working my way through
Um,
that.
and we're doing the Money Heist right now. So it's a Spanish show with English like kind of voiceover, and you think it'd be really annoying, but it's actually pretty good. And so I had watched the first two seasons and she hadn't, so I made her catch up, and then we just started season three today. So it's actually pretty good. It's about like this group of people that robbed this bank, and it's very unrealistic, kind of like Fast and the Furious ish, I guess you could say, but
Right.
it's really well done. It's cool just to see like the Spanish actors and whatnot and how they kind of bring that all to reality. So
Cool.
yeah,
Okay, on the binging front, I guess, what are you reading right now?
so it's called Zen Golf. So
Okay.
if anyone knows me, I'm a massive golfer, and it's kind of about the mental side of the game, which I'm a absolute liability when it comes to the mental side of the game. So that's something that I'm digging into, trying to get ready for the upcoming season, I guess you could say.
Yeah, hopefully.
So
So I've been hearing some rumors, on the online and stuff like that, that some of the provinces are going to have golf courses open up earlier than other things. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I hope so because I'm gonna go crazy if I have to wait any longer. But no, I think they can do it. A lot of the courses in the states stayed open because it's very. I mean, I say this, it's very easy to golf with social distancing rules. I played 4 weeks ago now. Actually, there's a course in the valley that opened up for one day, and I ended up getting out. But and like we're in that at that time the social distancing rules were in effect, and we just kept the pin in. We didn't. It was like 5 foot gimme, so your score was great. And then you just kind of you had to stay apart, obviously, and it wasn't that bad. Like I could see them making it work. I think it's just as safe as going to the grocery store. Put it that way. The issue though is like when people start drinking and stuff, you never know what's going to happen, right? So it's hard to
True.
say. I've heard rumors though that they are going to open early, but like I say, I think it's more province to province based on that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, last rapid fire question. What was for dinner tonight and who cooked?
Oh, we made homemade pizzas tonight, and
Oh, nice.
my stepdad's like kind of like an amateur chef, I guess I could call him. Like loves cooking. He's really good, and we've been well fed these last 4 weeks, almost too good. So we had some homemade pizza tonight.
Very nice. So a little bit of everybody got to cook.
Yeah, exactly. So
Cool. Okay, so we kind of talked about, you grew up in Bridgewater and stuff like that. I've asked a few other people this kind of question. Like, so I had kind of a really good, like, tight group of friends that I grew up
mhm.
with in junior high and high school, and we took like really different routes. Like some of the guys didn't finish high school. Some of them, went more on the journeyman, route and that sort of stuff. Everybody else stayed in Calgary. I moved out east, all the way out here. So, did you have a really tight knit group of friends growing up, and what are they up to now generally?
Yeah, so I mean, we're kind of a quote unquote typical friend group that like went through from elementary school, some of us to all the way through to university. So I mean, I've kind of two friend groups. It's kind of weird. Like when I was playing sports, I always played a year above me, just in the age category. So kind of had the group that was my friend group that was kind of my age, and then an older friend group that was a year older than me. And we're still all like super good friends. Not I think only one of us actually lives here currently. He coaches hockey around here, but most of us went the university route. A lot of them ended up playing either university sport or junior hockey or whatever. So I was very fortunate to be around like a good friend group that we pushed each other. And it helped that we were all usually on the same team, so we usually won a lot as well, which is nice. That always helps. But so when we kind of got to university, we all kind of went our separate ways. But a lot of us did end up playing sport at the next level, and a lot of my friends are actually coaching right now too, so which is pretty cool.
Oh
Just
yeah.
not sport specific coaching, not strength and conditioning. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So you talked a little bit about how you got into S&C, like very generally, with or strength and conditioning with Elliot.
Mhm.
Are there any like, did you have? Because I kind of have this memory of when I really like the first thing that happened that got me down the path was, kind of just going with a friend to a practicum meeting that I wasn't even signed up for and shouldn't have really been there, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Do you have any kind of stories or memories along those lines?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first got to Acadia, I didn't really know about they have like what's called an exercise physiology practicum, basically is what it's called. So
Jonathan Fowles, probably.
yeah, with J Files. So the cool thing about that is you kind of get your feet wet in every area of training. It's an exercise physiology course and practicum. So most of it's actually based around like working with people from special populations, whether it's someone with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, etc. So a lot of your kind of focus is in that area. But then at this time, Elliot was kind of starting this from scratch, and we kind of heard about it with regards to the strength and conditioning. And he wasn't even working with all the teams at that point. He was only working with a couple, and he was reaching out. And at that time, I was training, and this was the original Acadia gym, which is in it's currently a biomechanics lab. So I remember going down there and training because at this time I was trying to learn how to play hockey again, and being in volleyball shape and being in hockey shape is a totally different ball game. So I was going down there training, and he noticed that I was down there quite consistently, and he just kind of communicated, and I found out who he was, and then that was when I also met James, and then that's kind of when I heard word of mouth about the internship, and again, it wasn't really much at that time. So I ended up reaching out and joining the internship, and then I remember going to my first session, and I was like, okay, I could see myself doing this. So it was pretty cool, just because at that time he was doing like some private stuff with the youth athletes. I mean, he still is, but it was cool seeing like in a 4 hour span, you'd see like a 12-year-old athlete and then a university athlete, and they're training under the same roof at the same time. So it was pretty cool. It was a very inclusive environment.
Nice,
So
yeah. I sort of when I first moved to Nova Scotia in 2011, and I remember going to Acadia. It was one of the first things that I did. I did this kind of one-off presentation, and I'm pretty sure I didn't know Elliot at all at the time, and I
mhm.
think I joined up with him and Jonathan Fowles a little bit, and I think Leo Thornley from our center
Yep.
in Halifax came down, and we all kind of did this thing, and it was neat, and like I'd never been to Acadia before. Such a nice, like, cool little school, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it was an awesome spot to finish up your undergrad.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I credit everything. It's weird being at X now, obviously, because it's rivals. So it's hard for me to pump their tires too much. But at the same time, I wouldn't be where I am without them. So I give them all the credit in the world.
Nice. Okay, so you were talking a little bit about Saint FX. Um, Tell us a little bit about how you got there, what that process was like, and what's the day to day like. What are you up to at Saint FX now? No, obviously not the day to day
Yeah, I got
when we're
you.
quarantined, but
So the X thing was kind of like sprawling upon me. So I think it all happened within 2 weeks. Like I found out about the job, got hired, and was in Antigonish in 2 weeks. And it happened so fast, I don't really remember it. So all I remember was Elliot sent me a pop up that the job resume had came up, and I was like, man, it's like because at that point, I kind of knew I was ready to move on. When it wasn't that I was stale because I loved what I was doing there. But at the same time, it was just like, okay, I'm ready to take the next step in my career. So when I saw that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw my name in. And then I had a call back within a day, and they had set up for an interview. So it was that weekend. I remember, I think that was on like a Tuesday. So that Friday, I was actually in Antigonish for an interview, and Leo was actually there in the interview room, running part of that. And I just kind of like fell in love with the interview almost. It was kind of weird. Like it just felt like a good fit. Just talking to the manager was there, the athletic therapist was there, football coach was there, and then there was also three athletes. And I could just tell. I was like, okay, like, and because when you're coming from Acadia again, you hear all these bad things about X, and like I had friends that have gone to X, obviously, so I knew it was a good school. But like at the same time, you're going from a rival to a rival, so yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it at that point, and then I got a call back. I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, and they offered me the job. And I was in Antigonish, and I got there in July of 2018. I guess it would have been 2018,
Yeah.
and really had no idea what I was getting myself into because it was just me at that time. So, and I guess it currently still is, but so when I got there, I was like, I knew there's 350 athletes there, which is more than we had at Acadia.
Yeah.
And I knew we had a pretty hefty internship at Acadia that was, plus me and Elliot, that was kind of running the whole show. So I was like, oh man, I got my hands full here when I first got there. So first thing I did was I was very fortunate that Ian McNeil, I don't know if you've met Ian.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have. So Ian was there, and he had interned there before I got there with football. And I knew of Ian. I didn't really know him that well, but I knew he was good, and I knew he was kind of trying to work his way through the field. So he kind of just fell into my lap a little bit with regards to almost like you call him like a GA. I call him an assistant, but at that time
Hmm.
he wasn't officially an assistant. So he was fortunate he pretty much worked full-time hours for nothing for me. So I was very,
Wow.
very fortunate to have him. So he helped a lot with football and rugby. And I mean, if you've worked with football before, you know, they're a different beast. Like they take one person, they take in a lot of attention. So
Hmm.
very fortunate that he helped with that. And it helped that he was also there before. So he could kind of tell me and some things that have happened in the past, what worked well, didn't work well. So when I first got there, I remember I walked in the weight room and I was like, oh my God, there's no way we're getting 350 people through here in a week. So the first thing we did was we kind of stripped the weight room and got rid of all the things that I didn't think we necessarily need and just tried to create some open space. That was probably the best thing that happened with regards to just kind of, it was nice too, because when the athletes came in, they had like a fresh look, I guess you could say. When they walked in the weight room, it was different. Made a few little renos, nothing crazy, but that was kind of my first big project. And then the next part was just getting to know 350 athletes plus all the coaches and support staff and admin and all that. So it was quite a process for sure when I first got there.
Crazy. Yeah. Like I've only worked in so this sort of, I don't know, you call it high performance sport or whatever you want to call it. So I'm generally fairly lucky where I get pretty small groups, and
Mm,
I work with athletes, like a few of my athletes I've worked with for 8 or 10 years now. And so, you don't really get that you don't really get that luxury, but you also have
yeah,
that challenge of that huge numbers.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different beast, that's for sure.
What do you think's your like, I don't know if it would be a piece of advice or like your number one learning, but like how do you deal with that kind of volume of athletes?
I mean, I don't know if you ever really actually deal with it completely. You do your best, I think. I think the big thing that has really helped me is trying to treat every athlete fairly. Um, because it's very easy when you have that many athletes to kind of prioritize teams or sports or athletes and whatnot. And I mean, some sports require more time than others. I mean, I'm not going to train a cross country athlete as many times as I'm going to train a football athlete, and they don't expect that. But at the same time, I think it's really important, like when you're with that athlete, that you give them your attention 100%. Because again, I don't necessarily get as much time with all of them as I would like, just based on having number one, having a small weight room, and it was just me for the second semester this year. So it's really tough. But I think the big thing is just when you are with an athlete, make sure you really zone in and focus on them and give them your full attention, because that's what they're going to value the most. Because I think for me, it's really hard because again, I'm there for 12 hours a day, coaching 12 hours, and it's tough to stay motivated from a 12-hour, like coaching for that long is tough. But I think the big thing is just really to give them your time and your full attention. And I think they really appreciate that. And if they appreciate that, then they don't mind if you don't necessarily, my athletes are very well aware that we're understaffed and kind of under equipped to be running what we are running. And we're getting there and we're expanding, which is nice. But at the same time, they're very honest with me and they understand. And I think they feel a little bit bad sometimes. But I have the best athletes, so it helps that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Elliot just signed in. He gave us some hard eyes down there, so he's obviously having fun listening.
There he is.
You missed
Surprised
all the
you.
talk about you, Elliot, man. We were pumping your tires a little bit earlier.
Yeah, big tire pump. He's used to that.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. What we talked a bit about golf and some other things. What's your life like away from the weight room? So when you're not in the gym 12 hours a day, what are you up to?
Yeah, so I mean, the good thing for me is in the summers I only train. We don't really have that many athletes that stick around. In the summer, probably I think we had like 45 last year. But I do some private stuff with. We ended up having 60 private kids that we trained last summer. So this is like high school, as well as we had a junior group. So a group that was playing major junior hockey. Um, I was kind of fortunate that we had six guys that all played for the Moncton Wildcats this year. So all from Antigonish. So they all
Wow.
go into one team, which was pretty cool. But like other than that, in the summer, I mean, golf's a huge one. My girlfriend unfortunately lives in Halifax, so most weekends I'm making the journey from Antigonish to Halifax to see her Saturday, Sunday, and then coming back and working Monday through Friday. But like with regards to getaway, I mean, golf's a big one for me. It's massive. I didn't really pick it up till later. I played it when I was a kid, and then kind of developed a new love for it. That's probably the last 4 years, and my goal is to kind of get to a scratch handicap. So taking it pretty serious, almost a little too serious, probably. So
Really? What's your favorite course in Atlantic Canada?
Cabot. I
Oh,
played,
Cabot
yeah,
Trail.
yeah. Well, I played Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs 3 times each now, and I'll go back every summer. It's expensive, but it's worth every penny. It's
Nice. That's
so
awesome.
they're ranked top 100 in the world right now, which is awesome. So it's right in my backyard.
Cool. There's another. Well, we've actually had a couple of comments, I guess, on the bottom here. There was one that was asking about, what's it like having the best hair in S&C, and the other one was asking, this is from
That
Ian,
must have been that
does Josh
was
model on the side?
no, I do not model on the side. And with regards to the best hair, that must was that Drew Lawson?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely him. He always comments on the hair. Shout out to Drew. Drew never. So Drew was at Acadia when I was there, and he played on the hockey team. And he never like he always trained, and he was always like super strong, but he never was in the internship. And now he's working with Matt Jordan in Calgary.
Mhm.
That are just doing his thing. So shout out to Drew there. But no, I don't let the hair out. It's too much work in the morning. I can't handle that. So
Yeah, the
you
hat.
just throw the ball hat on.
Well, man, this whole isolation period is really going to test some of our various hairstyles that we have going right now. Hey,
I know. I got this gross thing growing on my face too. I was like, if there's a time to see what I can grow, this is it. So
that's kind of what I'm going for too, and I don't think it's getting any better than this.
yeah,
Uh,
I can't grow any right here. So I just shave like all this and just let this go where it does.
nice. Drake Batherson's asking here,
Drakey.
better cut or draw off the tee.
Definitely the power draw, Drake. You're a buttercut guy. Drake's one hell of a golfer, man. If he so when he was 15, this is when I first started training Drake, and when I was living in the valley, and he won our club championship when he was 15 years old. He looked like he was about 12 years old, and he was playing against all these men. His dad was playing in it too. His dad's a heck of a golfer, and Drake ended up winning the club championship at 15 years old. There's a picture of him
Crazy.
I have on my phone. He's like probably about maybe 5'8", and now he's playing in the NHL. So pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Um, what was my next question going to be? I had this story that I told, kind of came up randomly, but it sparked an idea for me on this question, on this line of questioning, where I was one of the first trips I did with the national women's softball team. I kind of got a little bit cocky in the outfield during batting practice and blew up my hamstring. It was fairly embarrassing, but I think it sparked like an automatic
Yeah.
connection and something for the athletes to bug me about for the till the end of time. So, not necessarily any injuries or anything like that, but do you have any stories of like kind of quasi embarrassing moments or things that are really memorable that stick out, coaching or teaching or presenting or anything along those lines?
Yeah, so I wasn't really necessarily coaching, but this is kind of a funny me getting way too cocky at a young age moment. So we were doing a Wingate testing in our lab, This was at Acadia too. And James Young, so the guy I was telling you about earlier, he said, "Is anyone up for the 90-second Wingate challenge?" At this time, I didn't even know what a Wingate was, so I was completely oblivious. And I was like, because I knew the normal was either 15 or 30 seconds all out, and I was like, I could do that. And then he's like 90 seconds. He's like, anyone up for the challenge? And I was like, oh yeah, I got it. And dummy me, like I step on the bike and I start going, and I'm 30 seconds in, I'm just dying. And I'm like, I still have a minute left, and everyone's in this lab screaming at me. Anyways, I get off the bike, and I thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital. I had so much buildup in my chest, like it was just like this big acidic. Because I ended up laying down right away, which was a terrible
Mm.
idea. And I put my legs up, and everything just came right to my heart, and I was just like, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Like everything just like seized up, like I couldn't move, and like they actually like were worried for me at one point because like I was just like went completely pale, like had no skin color whatsoever. And anyways, that was the last time I ever stepped on a Wingate bike, so it was
That
terrible.
that's crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
and you went full on, like you were
Oh
trying to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Oh man,
I remember
90.
by the last like 15 seconds of the 90 seconds, I was like barely moving the pedals. Like I was putting everything I had into it, and it was absolutely terrible. So,
That
needless to say, never do a 90-second Wingate.
no, you don't want to do
Yeah.
that. um, okay, I've got a question for you along the lines of, not to talk too much about drinking or anything like that, but what's your drink? So if you're out, for a date night or you're chilling with the boys, what are you ordering?
You know what? Do you have the Dirty Blondes yet?
Like the beer?
Yeah, the beer.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, not a girl. Yeah, the beer. I recently had one of those, and I'm a big fan. So I think that might be my new drink of choice.
nice. What
I
brewery
forget
is
what.
that? Nine Locks, is it?
Yeah, Nine Locks. Yeah, I think it's based out of Dartmouth, isn't it?
Yeah,
Pretty
definitely
sure.
over there somewhere for sure.
Again,
Yeah,
my beer knowledge is terrible, so don't hold me to that. But yeah, that's my new favorite.
very nice.
So
We're coming kind of towards the end, I think, of the chat, but this is usually I've got another question for you, but first I'll put it out there if people have questions for Josh or for us that are
probably just gonna
listening right
chirp.
now.
They're probably all just gonna chirp my golf game that I've talked about so much now.
I did hear that there was can't wait to take your money on the links. That was from Greg Brown.
Oh, he'll definitely take my money. He's a sick golfer.
Yeah, for sure. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for some questions, what do you have on the go right now that's like really exciting you, whether it's professionally or personally?
Well, I mean, cool thing is I'm working with you guys with the Olympic team now, so that was pretty welcomed opportunity there. That when Mark called me at Christmas, so really happy to be joining your guys' staff there, and just seeing a different level of high performance is really cool. It's kind of my first time really being exposed to a team setting at that level, and just kind of seeing the way you guys handle your business has just been unbelievable. So that's partly what is going on. I'm doing my master's right now. So that's another thing that I got going on top of all the coaching, which is kind of crazy right now. But I'll be starting my research this fall, looking at stressors experienced amongst first-year student athletes. So
Cool.
kind of more going along the social sciences side of things versus the kind of, I guess, physiology, you could say. And that's something I've always been interested in because for me, it's not that I'm not as interested in the physical sciences and with regards to data collection and whatnot, but I really enjoy like kind of the human side of things and the social side of kind of understanding athletes. And I mean, the mental side of things right now with regards to mental health and everything that's going on right now, it's a big factor with what we deal with in university athletics. So I'm trying to dig into that a little deeper, and maybe more so just understand because it's a big gap in the literature with regards to looking at what first year student athletes are experiencing transferring. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is I'm also looking at positive and negative because I think it's easy to just kind of look at all the negative experience that first year students athletes have, but I'm trying to kind of dig a little deeper and see some of the positive ones as well. So hoping to dig into that research as long as everything goes well this fall. And then I'm also going to be teaching a course at St. FX this fall as well. So in strength and conditioning.
Very cool. Yeah, that's always
Yeah.
fun. I've taught a fourth year undergrad seminar for the last like 9 years at Dalhousie University,
Mm.
and I love it, man. Like every year, it's I kind of dreading is not the right word, but it's just, it's another thing on the plate that I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
how am I going to have time for this? But it always invigorates me. Like after every class, every, the line of questioning that you get from the students, and they're like,
Mm.
as long as you have a few that are genuinely curious about the subject matter, you'll have a really, really good time. So that's exciting. I can't wait to
Yeah.
hear about it.
Yeah, for sure. I think similar to you, like I want to dip into my PhD at some point and potentially even get into teaching. So
Hmm.
this is kind of getting my feet wet a little bit, I guess you could say, in that field.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, so like just hearing you talk about doing the masters on the social sciences side, a little bit more versus the physical sciences or the statistics or whatever it is. I think that's a really interesting point. Like there is that little bit of a debate or back and forth going on
Mm.
in the S&C world, the art versus the science and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And I had Matt Fisher on here last week who works out of BC, who's doing his master's in clinical counseling, and I think the big reason why he's taking that route is something similar to what you've talked about.
Hmm.
So yeah, tell me like where do you stand um, in this? I don't, if it's a debate or just a topic, but where do you stand on the art versus science and strength and conditioning?
I think the big thing is like, and again, I don't think there would be enough information about either side of things, but I think there is a ton of information about kind of physiology training side of things. Um, but I don't really notice a whole lot with regards to looking at and understanding our athletes a little bit more, because I think everything's changing rapidly right now with regards to like technology and everything. And that's something I also hope to dig into is like, what are these factors causing the change? And because I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily change, because I think it'll be really hard to tell that. But with regards to more people reporting it, because we have a lot more. I mean, I shouldn't say we, but you see a lot more student athletes reporting mental health issues versus what it was in the past. So again, I don't know if there's just more education about it, about the importance of coming out and kind of discussing and talking about those things, or if there's actually something changing that's causing that. So that's something that I maybe want to dig into a little bit deeper. But again, I think there needs to be a balance. I mean, you can. I don't think you can ever have one of too much or the other. But I think sometimes it's easy for us to get caught into one area versus the other. So I think just making sure as a coach you have a balance of both. Because again, especially with strength and conditioning, I mean, there's so much information out there, and you have to put such a filter on when you're reading some of this stuff now. So again, it all comes back to balance for me, and just making sure you're understanding both sides. You're not just digging into one side without ignoring the other. You're kind of getting your feet wet in both options.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to make. Like I think Ian on the bottom just said we are in the people business, so mixed methods approach is necessary. And I think there's lots of different you know per, professional development opportunities out there where you can figure out where your areas of strength and weaknesses lie, and then there's these different ways, different avenues you can pursue, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a master's degree. There's lots of courses and online pieces in terms of relationship building and leadership and all that sort of stuff. I think those are
For
those are
sure.
huge things and areas that are sometimes missed. Like I do tend, and this is just the way that I am for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. I actually, one of the softball players asked me when they were in Halifax a couple weeks ago, what was my favorite part of the job, and I think she it had been a while since I was with them for that amount of time,
Yeah.
like and not in season. So it was just the gym, and I'd go to some practice and stuff like that. But she asked me if it was like the data collection, if it was coaching in the gym, or if it was, I think the third one was like testing or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really neat question, and I answered it initially, and I like circled all three of them in my
Yeah.
answer, and I didn't even think about this until the next day. I messaged her back and asked her what she thought I was going to answer, and she erred on the side of the data collection piece, or not really data collection, but more
Yeah.
like data analysis and that sort of stuff. So it's interesting. That's an interesting look into what the outside, like
Yeah.
what people see in what I'm doing, and I do think I lean that way, but I certainly see the value in relationship building and being a people person.
Yeah, and I don't think there's one right answer. Like I think everyone's going to have their niche at the end of the day, and I think that's I think for me, for example, like if I'm gonna build a staff, like I don't want a bunch of people that are me,
The same.
right? Like
Yeah.
I want someone like you that's like loves to dig into the numbers, and someone maybe like me who's a little bit more interested in the social aspect of things. But again, I don't think there's one right answer, obviously. But I think at the same time, you can't put all your marbles in one basket. Like you got to spread them out a little bit. So, but yeah, again, I think everyone has their niche at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's super important to think about. Absolutely. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions on the bottom, although Corey Kennedy just called
Scott
me a
is a
nerd,
nerd.
just called me a nerd, which I am a little bit of a nerd, which is
It's
fine.
all
But
good.
yeah,
All good.
if no one has any questions, um, we could depart. Josh, do you have any questions for me?
Josh, how long have you been growing your mustache? 4 weeks, Steve. Steve's the head scuba instructor at Ripley's Aquarium in downtown Toronto.
Oh
So
wow,
really, he's the one like talking through the tanks that you when you go to visit. So pretty cool. We got to swim with the sharks and the stingrays last time I was there. So
wow, crazy.
yeah. Question for you. What is in the? I mean, I think you answered this on another previous interview, but for the people that are listening, what is your future plans with regards to your life? I know you have kids and stuff too, but let's maybe stick it to career. Keep it
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, exactly. Well, the long-term future is I'm grooming my children to be, superstars in whatever they're doing. So, hopefully they're gonna be my retirement plan. No, just
It's
joking.
everyone's dream.
Yeah, exactly. No, but professionally, it's such a tough one to answer because I always flip-flop on these things, but I'm certainly going down the road of seeing how and if doing a PhD would be possible. I'm in my
Mm,
mid 30s. I've got 3 kids. I've got mortgages and all that sort of stuff on the
yeah.
go. So I'm really trying to be careful who I pick as a supervisor and what sort of program I kind of get into and what project I try to take on. Um, so I have a couple things on the go that could be like ready-made projects, and I've got a good relationship with Ken Seaman at UNB, who
Hmm.
and he's agreed to pursue something. We don't really know exactly what yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at, and I do think that there's a very strong possibility that now after the 2021 Olympics, that I'm going to get into a PhD kind of stream and see if I can do that. But again, the situation is I've got to make sure that I can still support my family and
Yeah.
have a little bit of a life, but that's basically where I'm kind of going.
Yeah. I find that's you did you do your master's right out of your undergrad?
I took a year and a half where I kind of worked, and
Hmm.
I trained a few kind of national development level teams in a couple sports, and then a few different private clients, and then I kind of stumbled into the masters. Honestly, I was not really planning on doing it, and then a supervisor just kind of asked me if I was interested, and then we went from there. So
Yeah.
it was a weird, yeah, but yeah. So taking the I really think that getting into a PhD at this point after working in the field for 15 years now, it could be really interesting. Like hoping to be able to produce some things that are usable.
Yeah. Because that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like I didn't do my master's right out of my undergrad, obviously, because I'm doing it now. So I'm like debating. I'm like, do I just want to try to get my PhD done as soon as I'm done my master's before I have kids, or like and just try to get it out of the way, or because it's kind of like that. It's a sketchy area once you have kids, right? So my girlfriend's looking at me like I got two heads right now.
Yeah, what kids? What are we
Yeah,
talking about here?
what kids are you talking about right now? Shaking her
I think
head.
I've talked to 2 people in the last couple weeks who are currently expecting, or their significant others are expecting. So yeah, I hope maybe you're not in
Yeah,
that boat quite yet.
yeah. Ear at strengths down there saying good idea. He's the
Yeah,
daddy daycare right now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Today
So.
was yeah. Anyway,
Oh
all
man,
right, man.
I
Well,
yeah. No,
no, go ahead.
I was just saying. I forget what his name is. Oh, Pete Dupuis, Eric Cressy's guy. He's like
Yeah,
his
yeah.
business guy, and he was saying like, I don't care what anyone says, but teaching your kids all day is way harder than running a fundable strength and conditioning facility or something like that. And I was like, God, I can't wait.
Yeah,
So
we've got like three different, very different levels of child, I guess, right now. We've got
yeah,
like
true.
Jackson's in grade two, Mariko's in like pre-primary, and then Bodie's one. So they're all doing completely different things, and it's just like nuts to try to keep them occupied all day. Crazy.
Yeah, good on you, man. Because I don't know how you do it with three of them running around.
Well,
So
like I've said a couple other times, it's probably a good 95% to 98% my wife. So
yeah, there you go.
really have to, yeah, give her that shout out.
She's a superhero.
Yeah, I try to swoop in every once in a while and grab one of them and do something, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right,
Well,
buddy.
thanks a lot for the chat, Josh.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime. Do I get a say in these children? Oops, I think that's a good place to end it right there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, buddy. Well, talk to you later.
All right, see you, buddy.
Yeah, bye.